Coming up. See if this works. All right. I think we're good. Hey, folks, we're going to get started here. Thank you, everybody, for coming out to our March Lunch and Learn. I am Michael Walton. I'm the Executive Director here at Green Spaces. So our mission here at Green Spaces, for those that aren't already familiar, is advancing the sustainability of living, working, and building in Chattanooga and the surrounding region. And we would not exist without you, without our supporters. We are a function of the community, and we only exist with the generosity of the community. We have the Green Prix coming up March 24th and 25th. That's going to be out at Volkswagen Chattanooga at the assembly plant in their big employee parking lot. The one closest to Enterprise Drive, is that right? Discovery Drive, that's right. And we're going to have 40 teams. Does that sound right? Yeah, so 40 teams competing across elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools. They've built their own electric cars just like this and are going to be racing them around a full-scale racetrack. It is spectacular to see, so please come out and join us. But more importantly, to make this event happen, we need lots of volunteers. So if you would be willing to come help us that Thursday, that Friday, that Saturday, or no, it's just that Saturday. Sunday too, or no? Okay, question mark. If you're available any of those days for any amount of time, we could use your help. Some big news. So this, well, let's wait for the fire trucks to go by. Okay. This was just announced yesterday. So Mayor Kelly presented the Chattanooga Climate Action Plan to the City Council Strategic Planning meeting. This is a big deal. This is something that we've been working on since 2018, initially with the Integrated Community Sustainability Plan. And then we used that during the mayoral campaign. We worked with Mayor Kelly during the campaign and after he was elected. And so this is building on the Integrated Community Sustainability Plan, a Regional Resiliency Plan, and the One Chattanooga Plan. And this is the city's sort of renewed commitment to climate action that basically, so the last one we had was in 2009. And we either achieved or addressed like 90% of what was in the 2009 Climate Action Plan. So, you know, great job to everybody in this room that was part of all of that work. This is an opportunity for us to, you know, raise the bar, and it's going to take all of us to roll up our sleeves and achieve these very ambitious and admirable goals. And a big piece of that is going to be the Parks and Outdoors Plan that we're going to hear about today. Another one of our programs, Empower Chattanooga. We teach low cost and no cost ways for people to lower their electric bills and also connect people to the resources they need to be more sustainable and resilient. Our next Green Drinks is going to be at Oak Leaf Cottage. So this is down in Trenton, Georgia. It is a really, really beautiful venue for events, for weddings. It's on the sort of mountainside of Lookout down on the Georgia side. It's really amazing, and they really know how to throw a good party. So, highly recommend coming out to that Green Drinks. It's a little bit of a drive compared to our normal Green Drinks, but I'm sure they will make it worth your while. Green Leader, we have some really exciting news about Green Leader. So Chattanooga State Community College is going to be sponsoring and promoting Green Leader now. It is a professional certificate for anybody that wants to learn about how to integrate sustainability into your business or organization. or even a group that you're part of. Green Light, so our new green business membership program, which we'll talk about in a second, now includes Green Light for free. So you still have to pay for certification once you get there, but it used to be that you had to pay to register for Green Light, and it was about 10 times as much as it is now, because of the help of some of our all-star interns over the past summer. We've made this into an online platform that's really easy for businesses to go through and learn simple ways that they can integrate sustainability into their day-to-day business. But speaking of our membership program, thank you as always to our founding partners, Compass Commissioning Design and Franklin Architects. Thanks to our members, Scenic City Solar, Franklin Architects, New Terra Compost, Grace Frank Group, Modus Build, Rockridge Venture Law, and Green Strategies. Thanks to all of our green level members. These businesses help make what we do possible. It is a really big part of how we can do the work that we do. And also thanks to our nonprofit members who support our work and also are working on their own journeys towards sustainability. If you want to become a member, either as an individual or as a business or organization, it's really easy to do. Just go to our website, go to Find a Green Business, and you can get logged up there. So just as a little bit of housekeeping, so all of the plates, bowls, napkins, cups, and cutlery are compostable. So everything that you're using that we're providing is compostable. So on your way out, just put it in the compost bin, the closest one to the door. Aluminum cans are recyclable. Anything left, just ask a Green Spaces staff person. And with that, I'm really pleased to introduce Akoshua Cook, who is the Parks Planner for the city of Chattanooga. I'll pass on your bio to give you more time to talk. But if you, I just have to say that, you know, the city Parks Department has been a really great partner to Green Spaces. We're really excited about this plan, and we're looking forward to partnering on making it successful. So with that, hot off the press, yeah, Akoshua.
Thank you, guys. And I'm here today with Blythe Bailey. He's the Director of Design and Connectivity. I work with him and the Department of Parks and Outdoors, and Scott Martin, our administrator. He's not able to be here today, but he did give me a dramatic reading to do for everyone. So I'll try to do it justice, but just imagine James Earl Jones or somebody really good. Join me on a typical Chattanooga spring morning in 2033. Carver Community Park is hosting doctor-led outdoor exercise classes free of charge as a part of community-wide health program that has reduced the local diabetes rate by 10%. Youth on a spring break are working alongside active seniors, planting dozens of community gardens speckled across the city's 1,500 park acre system, nearly double the size it was in 2022. City leaders, residents, and community organizations are sustaining neighborhood park-centered recreation and events partnerships that have reduced crime across the city block by block. 55% of Chattanoogans will now live within a 10-minute walk of a park, up from the 35% that it is now. And now all residents can fully experience the thrill of play in their local park and the beauty in nearby forests and streams. There's some more, but you get the gist of the table he's trying to set with this plan. Michael, I want to escape out of this and go to the present. You've all had a chance to read my list.
Drop the ball on you for that one. Is this right? No.
No, I
Oh,
you need to go to a different screen for
this one, right?
that.
Yes.
Michael, would you mind
Yeah.
pulling the light down a little bit too?
Oh.
Our ears back here. Thank you.
Okay. Can you hear me okay?
that better?
Well, again, we have been spending the better part of the last year and a half. Sorry. Working on what we are now calling the Parks and Outdoors Plan, or short name is the POP. And this has been the first strategic vision for our parks and greenway system in over 14 years. The last adopted plan, Recreate 2008, was actually written in 1998. So as you can imagine, most of the recommendations in that plan are pretty out of date. And it was a long time coming that we started to bring some rationality and fairness back into our decision making. So that's a large part of why we're here. Just as table setting, because I feel like we've done so much engagement and so much talking about this plan that people think it's going to become this like miracle drug. This is going to be a lot of work. Like the hard work starts now that we are at the draft form, and we're going to need you all to be a part of that. So the POP is a policy guide, essentially. It's going to provide the framework or a set of strategies that we're going to use to try to achieve our goals. But a lot of times people ask, how are you going to pay for it? The plan doesn't guarantee funding. We come up with some ideas of how we can do funding, but again, we're going to lean into partnerships as well, because you'll see it at the end, but it's going to cost a lot for us to get to where we want to be. And again, it's not regulatory or legally binding, and that's good and bad. There are some regulatory tools we might explore, but this also gives us flexibility to every 5 years revisit our plan. And if things aren't working, we have the flexibility in this plan to change that. This is just some of our highlights in our park system. We have some really outstanding parks. Coolidge Park, I would put up there with any park you could go to in this country, but we haven't had a really rational way of planning our park system. So it's led to there being some huge inequities in our system. And there's some parks in our city that are in deplorable condition. And that is something that we, with intentionality, wanted to address through this plan, is that we want to bring all our parks up to a standard that everybody has something close to home that they're proud to call their neighborhood park. So if we get it right, imagine a park littered with parks like this, a city littered with parks like this. We like to use the expression that Chattanooga is a city in a park. We want there to be throughout the city, these gems that people can go to that's not far from their home, but they feel like it's the same quality they'd get if they came right downtown and went to Miller Park. So we started with doing a lot of initial data collection, and we tried to see where we were in comparison to some national averages. And in general, we're behind the ball. In terms of actual parkland, Chattanooga has 6 park acres per 1,000 residents. The national average is 10.4. So today, as it stands now, we need to add 644 acres to get up to the national average. But if we think about as we grow out into 2050, we need 1,400 acres. So we also have to think about how do we prepare ourselves for success as we move forward. And again, right now, only 35% of Chattanoogans live within a 10-minute walk. That's compared to the average of 55% of cities across this nation. So we feel like we can do some, do better in this arena, and we have some strategies for how we want to accomplish that. Again, I don't know how well this is reading, but we looked at different levels of service for different facility types, such as basketball courts, baseball fields, tennis courts, community centers. And some of this results that we received were a little bit counterintuitive, because like for tennis courts, we have 75 tennis courts in the city, which is well above a national average, but only 56 are playable. So that does point to a serious issue in the maintenance that we're doing on our current parks and facilities. So again, we can't let numbers fool us. Like if you are doing like 20% of your parks, a facility isn't usable, we have some areas for improvement. We wanted to really make sure that we tried to reach as many members of the community as possible in our process. Something we've heard over the years from community members is they don't feel like we're consistent. We might do some kind of ad hoc pop-up event that was successful, but we don't maintain that conversation very well with community. So in this process, which has been over a year and a half, we've had 5 steering committee meetings. We had 2 workshops with about 225 people attending. This number actually is a little bit low because we had 1,400 online survey responses. We had 14 neighborhood meetings because we will go wherever we're called. So if you have an organization where you think this might be useful to share with your group, just let us know, we'll show up. We mailed out 3,500 statistically valid surveys, and we partnered with Trust for Public Land for a pilot program that they wanted to initiate called Park Listeners. And they specifically hired 9 park listeners, all of them bilingual, 1 trilingual, to go to the communities that we were getting very low responses on our online survey, because we wanted to do targeted engagement in those areas because they tended to overlap with the areas with some of the greatest need in the city. So their listeners went out and conducted 350, and these are in-person intercept surveys. We had 12 focus groups, we did youth, we did seniors, we did people with disabilities. We even met with developers, and that was actually a very fruitful conversation, hearing some of their strategies on how to improve park access in the city. And then again, we've had over 13,000 people go to our webpage, some over 100 community workshop attendees. And then again, we had a follow-up survey that was a little bit more targeted. We have 560 responses to that. And again, this is just a capsule of what we heard, but one of the main things we heard is people want everyone wants a neighborhood park that's high quality so they can build and meet their neighbors and be part of a, and they want to go somewhere and be healthy. Somebody said, keep nature in the forefront of all your planning. And every child in Chattanooga area could have a natural play space, easily accessible to their family and neighborhood, and to explore and enjoy nature. Some of the things we found that were quite interesting was we gave people an array of choices of things they like to do in the park, and we asked them to rank it. People here predominantly picked walking. They picked either on a walking path that's paved or unpaved. And I was kind of surprised. I mean, that's pretty low hanging fruit for us to achieve that, because I was thinking they'd ask for pickleball courts. And then after that, playgrounds. And again, park access is a big issue here, that people want access to parks close to home. We came up with a typology for our park system. Something that we created that's unique to Chattanooga is we have a signature park designation, which other cities might have regional parks, and they're large 20-something acre parks or 100-acre parks. We have parks here that they might not be that size. I'm thinking of a Miller Park, but if you think about the vicinity from which it draws, it's regional in scope. So we decided to come up with this designation of these parks that are unique and serve the whole community, even tourists. We call that signature. But we also were very intentional, like Michael mentioned with the climate action plan, that the ecological health of a city is important. Somebody asked about that. We created a whole category for preserve. These are parks with protected natural scenery and unique features. They might have some recreational element, but primarily this is a category to help us preserve these open spaces that they are like the lungs of the city. Then we have community parks. Some of them might have a community center, but generally they meet the day-to-day needs of like a larger radius than a neighborhood park. But our focus is going to be on improving neighborhood parks. We want something that doesn't have to be large, but it's in a residential area and it serves the community, oftentimes at the heart of the community. And then we have some really cool pocket parks. We don't want to forget about those. And then special use facilities like Champions Club. So again, we have more neighborhood parks, but the amount of land that's taken up by signature and special use facilities is larger because those tend to be larger facilities. And we actually had our consultants and the planning team go out and rate the quality and condition of all of our park facilities. And basically, we're not bad, but we're really, right now, this is just telling us we're average. We rated most of our parks, and we have some that are great. Southside Community Park was recently built, but Boulevard Park, sometimes we have to ask ourselves, is it still meeting the definition of a park? But so we gave ourselves a C+. Of course, we want to get up to an A. So this plan is trying to help us come up with strategies. So we can move up to a position that we would be proud of. Again, we're focusing on neighborhood parks. This is just looking at the existing neighborhood parks in their half-mile service area, and all the dotted lines are potential neighborhood parks that would expand our service area. So again, we have this ambition of, in the next 10 years, getting up to 55% walkability. So we have done the initial legwork of finding out where those gaps are. We're also taking a look at greenways and other natural resources. And this plan proposes to possibly add 141 miles of connected trails, most of them protected within a natural resource corridor. So this is our vision statement. Chattanooga will be a city and a park where all residents have just and equitable access to breathtaking natural scenery, clean and beautiful waterways, iconic downtown parks, authentic and welcoming neighborhood parks, and an interconnected greenway and blueway trail system that stitches them all together. You've probably all heard this, but we have 5 pillars that we've been building this plan around, our pop principles. The first of which is equity. And that's just a focus on justice and fairness. You can see within just taking a look at some of the parks in the city that not all neighborhoods have received equal treatment or fair treatment, that there's some parks that are outstanding, but there's some that are just, like I said, deplorable. And so we're leading with equity in this plan. But again, I feel like it's important to lead with that because it ties them all together. Because of course we want to look at quality. If you go to these parks in these underserved areas, you're going to see some really, dilapidated amenities, bathrooms that are not in working order. That's something that we have to really intentionally address. How do we improve that? We also looked at access, and access isn't just the physical access, say a 10-minute walk. We also have to think about how different members of the communities access parks. Some people have to use public transit. Some people have to use a wheelchair. So we're looking at trying to be as inclusive as possible and as we plan out our park system. And then, as I mentioned, a lot of times in some neighborhoods, their park is their sense of place. It ties that community together and gives them their identity. And we can't forget the importance of nature in all of this, that we are part of a larger system, and we have to think about how our actions impact not just us, but like the wildlife that travels through this area. We have to be better at coexisting with our natural environment. Some of the ideas we have around how we can create an equitable park system is prioritizing system improvements in areas of the cities that have historically been underinvested in. We did a lot of mapping, looking at redlining areas at high incidences of obesity. Like there's a lot of factors that we went into putting together some equity prioritization zones. We also want to think about how we can locate parks to address the city's brownfield legacy. It's hard to find a patch of just greenfield in the city. Most of it is impacted. We want to also think about incorporating anti-displacement strategies in our park design and engagement processes. One idea that we said is that if we can raise the standards so that everybody has an A-class, rated park in their neighborhood, that would reduce some of the pressure when you add a new park of sometimes it leads to gentrification. And that's not something we want to happen. I've had people say they don't want a park, but what they are saying is they don't want to be dislocated. They want to stay where the community they've lived in their whole life and feel attached to. So people don't want to be displaced. Then we're also thinking about creating a parks advisory board that will help us, reflect equity in our decisions, because they'll have the institutional knowledge of the city to guide us in that. Then I mentioned quality. We want to implement design guidelines to ensure that all our parks and programming are safe and universally accessible. We also need these design guidelines to just give us a minimum standard for parks. So like we've said, if you go to a neighborhood park, what should you expect? It probably should have restrooms, a walking path. It should also have, just site amenities like some seating and maybe a pavilion. Then we also want to create a sustainable funding source to ensure that all these existing parks are adequately maintained over time. Because it's one thing to build a great park, but if in 3 to 5 years it looks pretty shabby, then we're not doing our job right. We also want to think about access. Some of this big ideas we had was work with community-based partners to expand our park and outdoor recreation programming with the goal of reaching new audiences, create a safe routes to parks program. Okay, and then build connections between the city's park and outdoor system. Especially working with some of our partners like the National Park System, Tennessee Valley Authorities, and other regional and national trail systems. And then, of course, with place, amplify the character by launching a neighborhood park design initiative, celebrate and protect our cultural landscapes. And specifically, I don't think we do a great job of like recognizing our Native American heritage here, and that it overlaps a lot of our park spaces, and we can do better to honor that history. And then comprehensively view a park and a recreational space as the part of the entire public realm. So even plazas and squares, all of this plays a role in the character of the city. And then, of course, with nature, we want to celebrate and protect our timeless geographic natural features. It's one of our biggest assets. Like Mayor Tim Kelly will say, it's our competitive advantage. And integrate the plan with other citywide resilience and stormwater initiatives. So we have worked with Eric and actually Eric Asbo and Schmidt. I was about to say they have the same name, but on the climate action plan, making sure that some of their policies that they're recommending get incorporated into some of the policies that we want to recommend within our plan. And then, okay, of course, thinking about the 16 county Thrive Regional Network, and then utilizing just land planning tools that we have, such as zoning and subdivision regulations and other ordinances that can help us, one, expand our park system and then protect our ecological resources. The top of the pop is what we're calling some of our priorities that kind of floated to the top. So again, the Initiate the Park Neighborhood Initiative, continue to invest in signature parks. It's been something that we've heard a lot in communities that they feel like we only focus on downtown. And I don't necessarily agree with that, but I understand the perception, but they tend to be more economic drivers for the city. So it's not an either or, like we say, it's a both and. We have to focus on neighborhood parks, but we can't let quality of our signature parks go down. We want to build safe greenways and trailheads, hopefully put 55% of residents in the 10-minute walk, sustain healthy urban ecological systems, and protect our shared cultural landscapes. Then we also want to be very precise in making this an actionable plan by focusing on rapid targeted improvements and partnerships that improve the quality of an activity in existing parks. And then also just thinking about how do we dedicate the adequate resources to maintain our parks at a high quality standard. This you might not be able to see well, but this is the vision plan. This is what all those 10 chapters, all the work kind of leads up to. It's been called by some like a battle plan, but basically we're going to recommend 27 new greenways, 34 new parks, 19 new facilities, which could be like disc golf or a tennis court. Then we also want to dedicate 870 acres in new parkland, most of that preserve. And then we have 50 parks, existing parks that we've identified for targeted investment. And this is, again, over 3 phases, because, you know, as we keep saying, like, how do you eat an elephant? You have to do it one bite at a time. So we can't accomplish this all at once, but we are trying to think, one, about the system now, and then what it doesn't need to be in 50 years. And so in the first phase, we're going to try to do 16 greenway corridors, add 6 new parks, reinvest in 19 parks, and that would include deferred maintenance, add 4 new facilities, and then add amenities along the 28 miles of blueways. And as you can see on the left, that kind of is showing like what we look like right now existing. Then in phase 1, we want to grow out to 55% walkability. Phase 2 is moving the needle further. And then in phase 3, we hope to be a city that's almost fully walkable to a high quality park. And then I just listed some of these projects that are anticipated for phase 1. And things can change based on funding that's available. And I did get permission to show you guys this because there was some thought that we shouldn't show it, but you guys are special. He said, treat them like, you know, the steering committee. And so you're getting let in on some of our, hopefully some of the goals we want to achieve. So basically that's it. What's happening next is hopefully we're going to have the full plan go live on April 11th. Then April 22nd, Earth Day, there might be some interesting announcements that you should keep your ear out for. April 24th, we hope to go for final adoption. And then the city is also trying to participate in the National Park City program. Blythe can tell you way more about it than I can. But, and then sometime between June and August, we hope to stand up a Parks Commission. So that is it. I did have some questions. I think some of them I've addressed, but there's two, one about addressing the quality of commuting to parks and CARTA. We have not met with CARTA specifically. There has been thought that when we place a new park and it's accessible, thinking about placing it along bus routes, things like that, especially in our underserved areas. But that's, again, there's always room for us to expand our partnerships and find out ways to work with other organizations. And that's one that we will probably investigate. How do we work better with them? And then, again, we worked closely with our sustainability office. They've been working on the climate action plan, and we've been making sure that we don't have policies that are counter to their plan. And in fact, we've incorporated some of their language and policies. And somebody said parks need fewer trees. And I think that is a very provocative statement, but but they like flying kites, so they do have a reason. So, we'll meet in the middle on that. But otherwise, I'll open it up to you guys for whatever questions you have.
Realizing that Moxon Bend is a national park, as I understand it now. How can the city interact with that to connect with that somehow? I know it's very slow moving.
Well, we have a lot of ideas about that. We've been working, one of the steering committee members, Trisha Mims, she's in National Park Partners, and we've talked with her a lot. And I don't know how much we can talk about, but there's what exists now, but down the road, we are thinking of expanding our footprint, maybe having some slightly more recreational uses there. But Blythe, can you add any color to that?
Yeah, Moxon Bend is just to restate, John, for those in the back. Moxon, the question was about Moxon Bend. It's a national, it's designated as a national. Thank you, thank you, Michael. National archaeological. There's a story behind that, but it's a public resource. It also has lots of things on it that we all know about, some of which maybe are challenges and some of which maybe aren't. We worked with, I think you didn't mention, we worked with the University of Pennsylvania School of Landscape Architecture. They did this, Chattanooga's been doing this for 40 years now, where students come here and study parts of our landscape and make recommendations. They do a beautiful job. About 10 different projects for how the city / state / federal government was agnostic to who does it, but this is a public resource. How do we make it amazing? And that was really exciting. I think we're planning to reference that work in our plans and units. There's been stuff in the newspaper about the hospital there possibly relocating. And so if that were to happen, then there's no land for this. And then you mentioned Trisha with National Park Partners and partners with the federal, with the National Park System on programming. We also have Moxon Bend identify interface 1 for actual city improvements that we would make to it. So that's kind of a dumping everything on you in terms of it. Just to suffice to say, we're really excited about Moxon Bend. I find it really interesting as somebody that's been involved in planning in Chattanooga for a long time, that the initiation of our Tennessee River Park, which most of us know as the Riverwalk, a series of parks along the river, was done by an organization called Moxon Bend Task Force. So 40 years ago, we recognized Moxon Bend is such an incredible piece of landscape for our community. It just feels like it just has to be really everything it is. So that's a really vague answer to the question, but we're as excited about it as you are, Jim.
How's the hiring range tied in on that county and they?
Yeah.
That's why I was like,
I'm sorry.
I don't know really, I don't know much about it, probably than I know much more about it than we all, and I do think, I think this is my opinion, but I don't think it's off base. I think a firing range on a piece of land that, potentially valuable, maybe isn't the best way to use that land. I think there's interest and efforts underway to find another location. But I've not been involved in that. I think I don't know what the lease arrangements are. I think there's multiple entities. I know that the city also uses it for training and the county does. I think more than just the city and county use for training. But there's been interest in finding another location for a number of years.
You had a question, Redline?
The signature cards. So what makes a signature card?
Well, generally, it's about the kind of region point it draws, visitors. So a Miller Park, say on like a nightfall, it's pulling people from other counties to come to the, somebody, I'll get back to, sorry. But like a Miller Park pulls from other counties, adjacent counties that come down to events that we have there. So some of its size, there are parks that, like Greenway Farms, it's a large park. It has so many great things, a quarry. We decided that was the signature park. But then Renaissance and Coolidge, they again, all of those parks, I think, Scott was using the term like 21st century waterfront parks. All of those, they are what people think of when they think of Chattanooga. And that some of our classifications are aspirational. Like there's parks that we hope to make improvements to that they become signature parks, because we don't want people to feel like they have to drive downtown to go to a really high class, great quality park. We want these to be sprinkled throughout our city, that people in Hickson, people in East Brainerd, they have something that they love to and consider that it represents Chattanooga. Yes. Yeah, like right now we have parks that we think meet that standard, like a Riverwalk, but that doesn't mean that there aren't parks that if we make the investment in that space, that it couldn't become a park that people think of when they think of Chattanooga. Well, actually, that's an outdated term. I think that our administrator actually wants it to be a full parks commission. And so they would have the broad scope of thinking about how do we make equitable investments, but how do we also respect our role in the natural environment. They would help recommend projects, prioritization. So they'd be doing a lot of work. And so applications might be, I don't know. The mayor's gonna, I believe, and the city council are gonna stand up this commission. So they'll come up with the formal policies of how to place members onto that commission. Well, I can start with the biggest challenge is finding a way to pay for it all. But that's going to be hard because I think that the plan itself is a slam dunk. We got nothing but support and positive feedback on it. A lot of people feel like it's been too long since we've done something like this and really invested in our parks and open spaces. And again, we tried to be really strategic in what we placed in the first phase as being things that were actionable and achievable. So some of these projects are already in progress. Like we've already allocated the funding to create pickleball courts out at Batter's Place because it was damaged during the tornado, and we've had FEMA money, but it's just been slow moving. So things like that, we are going to fast track. We're working on Providence Street Park, which is also part of us completing a conversion process with the state. So again, it's something we have to do, and we have to do it within 3 years. So it's going to be prioritized. So we made sure to put those in the first phase, the things we know we got to do,
things that we think we can achieve. Maybe there's already funding in place. So we wanted to be smart about it because we don't want a plan that sits on a shelf and doesn't produce results. So we've been intentional, like you're gonna see some real changes within that 10-year frame. And I'm gonna put my mark on that. You go ahead. Did you have a question? I thought it was a hand raised. Is it back here? Okay. Okay, you're not there, you're an insider.
Has this been considered to be folded into or utilized through the regional planning agencies work that they're reevaluating their whole land use and countywide, and can that be implemented in such a way so that future development will support implementing some of these strategies without having to use necessarily like future private developments?
Yeah, well, no, well, that's actually several.
Helping you. It's
But
your
the regional planning agency, we've worked with, like, they helped us with, they've done growth reductions. They have to do it for the regional transportation plan, main house and TPO. So we use some of their models, for how they see the city growing out, to help us with our phasing of how we see our park system expanding. So they're an integral partner, and again, like, they have more control with it, because they're also working on updating the subdivision regulations. And in Nashville, they have in their subdivision regulations that all new developments have to set aside easement for rainway. So we want to look at how do we use some of those tools. So we don't necessarily have control over that specific tool, but we want to work with like our regional planning agency so that we can incorporate some park positive policies in their updates to those ordinances. And then we also are looking at partnerships and leveraging partnerships again for the funding, because I don't know if you guys saw the price tag right now for us to do that entire phase one. It's going to be pretty steep, and so we have to do all of the, like, we have to work with existing city dollars, but we know that's not going to get us there. We have to work with partners.
If we look at state impact fees, or excuse me, local impact fees through the state legislation, to support park systems.
Yeah, we,
I'm gonna turn it. There we are.
Yeah, we're definitely want to look at that, because other cities, other states, they do a much better job of, implementing impact fees to pay for developments and improvements. I think right now we don't have the enabling legislation, but that's something that, again, we can work with. We have some great lobbyists that the mayor has retained to kind of work to change some of those things, because it's holding us back. Other questions? Go ahead.
What is the interaction in terms of two different other entities? And part of it is the county and all their parks and open spaces, and the other is Almont Society owns an island in the middle of the river, which is greatly underutilized. Now,
Talking about Magellan Island?
what
Oh, McClellan, okay. McClellan, Magellan. McClellan Island. I do think there's been some talk, so just keep an eye out. That may become part of the city. Yeah, that's how I was kind of wondering, but yeah, that might be, I think that's actually
In progress.
in progress. And
Actually, yeah, board member.
yeah, but also, oh, you're a board member there?
Yeah.
Oh, great, you can.
I can't answer it fully, but we do have Chattanooga and Scott, so very excited.
In progress.
Yeah.
See that whole of the city fit under and if you don't have something to make certain things happen right now, as Chattanooga is a lot of money, very small nonprofit, so we have been meeting to collaborate.
Thank you. Yeah, because I was like, I know I've heard, and I'm glad you're here. And yeah, and again, we have to work with the county. I mean, we share the Riverwalk, and it's something for a gem for both of us. And so, and there's even, it's weird, like Ben Miller Park is a county park that's in the city. So a lot of times people call us and they want, they'll complain about a tree. So there's lots of things that we're working on, like one, to just make it better for the residents, like if looking at spaces like that, should the city take over that space because we can better serve it? So, because we don't exist in a vacuum. We have, I think, how many, Red Bank, East Ridge. We didn't look at our system in isolation. So like when we look at 10-minute walk, we still looked at parks that might not be in our jurisdiction, but if they can serve residents of Chattanooga, they were calculated in. So yeah, like we don't want to operate as an island. We have to work with all the people around us to build like a great system for everybody who lives here. Yeah, well, we're thinking of like adding 141 miles. So there's a lot. You got the person to ask right here. But yes, we definitely think that that's like when we talk, somebody asked about saying like the low hanging fruit. If we want to get up to 55% of our city being within a 10-minute walk of a park, we can't be narrow in what is our definition of a park. So linear parks would play a big role in expanding that access. Specifically in the neighborhoods, like that's why we have several connectors that are in different stages of conceptualization, but the Alton Park connector is probably the most, has the most planning work done with it, but hopefully one day we'll expand that out to Crabtree and then perhaps even out to East Lake. We want there to be a network that you can actually get to our parks using the Greenway system. So it becomes like that interconnective tissue that ties this all together. There's work being done on that. You have the director of design connectivity here. I'll let him answer these.
Oh,
There's a camera there?
Yeah, just so they can hear.
We have, you're talking about the University Greenway, which is built from MLK to roughly 3rd Street. We actually have a schematic design contract active right now to develop a schematic design package. Just that one preceded the plan a little bit. So we went ahead and got going on it. But we're doing schematic design where we would link up where it currently ends, kind of across from Champy's there at the base of Brown Elementary, where it would continue southwestern, with the terminus being eventually the 26th Street trailhead at US Pipe. So all the way down past I-24. And then on the north side, continuing it just a little bit, weaving it through some properties is a challenge, but eventually connecting straight to the Riverwalk. So the University Greenway would connect to the Riverwalk on the north and go to US Pipe on the south. We just used a little bit of extra money there. Sometimes we have to be clever about how we use some of the funds. We had some extra money last year, so we engaged in a contract with a local engineering firm to do a schematic design on that University Greenway.
What the shows would go across MLK, is that proposed to go through the rail lines?
Yeah, I mean, my attitude on greenways is keep your options open because opportunities arise with property owners. Working with the rail is really challenging. But if the challenges were all equal, I would say ideally we would be at the level of the rail where we could cross the street and go right there past what's the thing? Is that the Sim Center on the right?
Yeah.
That would be the ideal scenario, but that may not be achievable. That the rail company currently uses that bridge. So right now it's probably not achievable. So we're talking, that's exactly what we're talking about. And yeah. Yeah. Maybe they're feeling a little more generous. Right, maybe not. Yeah.
Other questions? All right, well, thanks everybody for coming out. Quick plug. Yeah, round of applause. Thank you. Our April Lunch and Learn is going to be with Wind River Custom Homes. Paul in the back, wave your hand. Is our former board treasurer and still a board member. Is going to be talking about missing middle, accessory dwelling units, and some of the work that Wind River has been doing to help increase affordable housing in not just Chattanooga, but everywhere where they work. So look forward to that. And please, please, please come out and volunteer for the Green Free. And if you can't volunteer, at least come watch. Again, that's March 24th and 25th. And we hope to see you at Green Drinks. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I was Googling it. I read about our action plan last night.
Yeah.
And snuck up on it.